Hey there and welcome back to my channel. So today I have a really exciting video for you guys. I'm going to be talking about this indie company of fragrances and going through the scents that I've got, talking you through the notes, talking you through what I like and dislike about everything and what kind of matches with me. As always, if you haven't subscribed already, don't forget to subscribe. And also I've got an Instagram now, so I will put the link to that below so you can follow me on there. I kind of share my scent of the day, and in between things I can, post and talk to you guys a little bit more in between videos, that is. And yeah, it's been fun. I have mentioned before that if we get a good group of us on there, I'd love to set up lives if you guys are interested. I could do it on YouTube as well, but anyways, let's get into the video. So as always, I will always mention this, or actually I will mention it now because I think it needs to be said, but it goes without saying. Every opinion that I have on a fragrance is my opinion and my opinion alone. So if you find that you don't vibe with something or that it's not your cup of tea, I mean, the overwhelming response that I get from you guys is always that you also do like it, or that you really like, I put you onto a fragrance you hadn't heard before, one that you were kind of thinking about but weren't sure about. But if for any reason something's not your jam, that's okay too. You can have that opinion and that can be your experience. It just doesn't take away from what another person could experience. Someone else that's a viewer could really like something, they could really love it. I am only going to always share my true and honest opinion with you guys, and you guys know there are some fragrances that just aren't my jam, or some brands that just don't do it for me, and others that totally do. So I don't want to be a channel that does disclaimers because I think they just bog down the video. So I'm just going to say this now, from now onwards, because I know some of you might not like something, or you don't like a particular experience that you had. That's fine, but another person might do so. So that's why it's nice to just figure out what you want and try it, and you're always going to have some great experiences and some duds. So just gonna leave that there. And yeah, we're gonna get into this company. So I have recently, you might have noticed, I didn't really, before starting my channel, have a lot of indie fragrances. I think I maybe only had 2, and that was always a part of my collection that, even though my collection was so big, was kind of lacking. And through my channel and seeing other videos or learning from you guys or in Facebook groups, I've learned of and heard about a bunch of indie companies that make fragrances. So I've made some videos on some, I've got some now, I've tried some, I'm absolutely loving them. And some of them are natural indie brands, some of them are they make roller balls or oils. And this company, and I have to say, I've always pronounced it in my head as Sucreabeille because it's 2 French words, but I don't know if they pronounce it differently. So in French, Sucreabeille means like sugar honey. So anyways, that's how I say it. And I was speaking to them. They're a women-owned business, which is incredible, women-owned and operated. And they're an indie house, and they have so many fragrances. So I've been browsing their website, I think like a month ago. I was browsing over and over and over again, and I could not get over the absolute selection. So they very kindly sent me over 6 bottles, and the bottles are the 1 ounces. And then she also sent me some like 1 ml little samples of their fall collection. That's their fall releases. So we'll leave those last, but we will get into the bottles. There are some that are totally my jam, some interestingly that are not my jam, and then my cousin's favorite. So I think I'm just gonna let her have them, and then she can return the bottles to me, or at least maybe I'll give her a decant. I feel like I might miss them even though they're not my jam. Maybe I'll like them later. So anyways, we'll split those with her. And yeah, let's get into it. So I will start with the 2 I love. And what's interesting about this website, what kind of drew me in, is each of the fragrance it has, I'd never seen this before. Like, they had some of them have incredibly long stories. Some have just a short description, which like the first one I'm going to talk about, but some have like an entire inspiration behind it, whether it's a quote or a person or a place or a story, a fable. It's just really cool when people can make fragrances based on like things or creations or ideas or movies, because I just love that. So the first one isn't actually that, and it was actually a short description. It's Cabana, and I checked now, and it's actually part of their discontinued range now. From what I could gather, they do come back sometimes when they're in season, but this was a summer release. I'm so glad I got it because I think it's my favorite of the whole bunch. And this one has tart pineapple, mandarin, tonka bean, and whipped cream. And it is just the most juicy pineapple scent I've ever smelled. And this is what they look like, by the way, the 1 ounce bottles. So they're spray bottles, which is great. I love that. And they all have obviously like a different, you know, paper, or like, what is it? Like name and design on the back, on the front rather. And this one is just really like, it's a very tropical juice type scent, but it's not just like a regular tropical, like Miami Glow, for example, by J.Lo, is a very tropical, beachy scent. This is tropical and beachy for sure, very fruity. The pineapple's very, very tart and almost like sweet and sour, which I love, but it smells like juice. Like it smells like had you gotten a virgin tropical drink, because it doesn't have any of that like alcohol, rum, vodka vibe to it, but it really does smell juicy, and I think that's the best way to describe it. I did wear it on like the last few warm days we've gotten sprinkled around, but it's a really, really nice one. It's the one I like the most, and for me to like a fruity scent, it doesn't happen very often, but this one, I don't know, there's even an element of it that kind of reminds me of juice when I was younger. Like it's slightly nostalgic, but yeah, the best way to describe it, I think, is a very tropical virgin drink, because it's got all of those like mandarin, pineapple, like I don't even know, like tonka, like slightly vanilla-y, but not super, you know, it's not very rich, it's very light, and yeah, really love that. Then the second one, completely different in name, and this one at first when I was reading their website, it just made me laugh, but then I read the notes and it was actually interesting. So this one's called Aspet. I will link all of these fragrances in the description below, other than Cabana because it's discontinued. And I'll just link the regular website if you guys are interested, or if you just want to read, like some of their descriptions are really, really funny. So this is Aspet, as you can see, different photo here. And this one has toasted marshmallows, church incense, frankincense, myrrh, and tuberose. And what I loved about this when I got it is it smells like these incense sticks. I think that's what they're called. The sticks where you just, you know, light them and you leave it in a sink or in one of those little containers. It smells identical to my favorite incense sticks that I got when I was traveling in the Middle East. And it just brings me back to that trip. I bought 2 packs, and then I used up 1 pack, and the second pack I got weirdly attached to it, and I was afraid to use it up because then I wouldn't have that smell, and or it'd be harder to, you know, who knows when I'm gonna go back and try to get it. And I really did like it. It had like a lion on the package, and it smelled exactly like this. It's a very incensey, but kind of like a burnt sugar. I guess it's toasted marshmallow, but yeah, like a burnt sugar incense, and I really do like it. I can see how this isn't for everyone because not everyone liked those incense sticks either, but this is totally up my alley and a lot more suited to the weather now as it's getting colder than Cabana. But I don't know, I just had to give, this is a very close second. They're just very different vibes, and if you like incensey, this is church incense, but just like incensey, super like sweet, burnt sugar, burnt toasted like marshmallow type scents, then take a look at this one, because this is surprisingly something that I didn't know even existed, but I always wanted, which was the smell of those incense sticks that I picked up while traveling. So love that. Then we get to the one in between. I got 6, so there's 2 I love, 2 that my cousin really loved, and then one in between that I love but not to wear on me. Like I love to smell it and spray it as like a fragrance in my, you know, in my home. And that's Byzantine. And this one has black tea, burnt sugar, and old library books, old books. That's what it listed. The old books is what got me because I'm a huge avid reader. I have been my entire life, and I adore the smell of books. When I was younger, I used to like judge books based on that smell. And this really does smell like those three things. You definitely get like, it's kind of a bitter burnt sugar scent in this one. It's not like the toasted marshmallow sweet sugar in aspet, but this one is a bitter burnt sugar, a very, very strong black tea, I find. And it does smell like old books. It's not like any other fragrance that has listed, like Bibliothèque by Byredo is a very different old books than this. And this is a scent that I feel like is not one I want to spray on as perfume, as I said, but I just want to smell. It's very interesting. Indie fragrances really do push the boundaries on fragrance and scent and notes, more so obviously than, you know, designer fragrances, but I find even more so than niche, because they really, at least in my very limited experience, they've really gotten creative with it. This is a difficult one to place. I mean, it smells very much like old, maybe even like slightly molded old books, and, you know, like a bitter burnt sugar and a very, very strong tea, even just old. It kind of made me think of if you'd visited like ruins in Greece or very old buildings. It smells like that smell of those buildings. So it's interesting. It's really, really interesting, but, you know, tread carefully. I feel like you need to see what you want in a fragrance, and that's why it could differ for a lot of you. Maybe you want something strictly that's a lot more easy to wear and your vibe, in which case it's more Cabana aspet, something that's more interesting or artistic if you already have a huge collection. Byzantine might be totally up your alley. So take a look and kind of read the stories if you're interested in a particular one. It gives you the vibe of what the fragrance is actually going to be, which I find to be super helpful. Then we get to the two that I really wanted to be my favorite, especially because of the names and the kind of stories behind them. They ended up being my cousin's favorite and vice versa. The ones I liked weren't her favorite, so it worked out in the end, and I'm glad. I'm just going to split them with her, just take a little bit for myself and then give her a good chunk of each. So we'll start with this one. As you guys might know, if you watched one of my other videos where I got a fragrance that was inspired by Harry Potter, this is why I picked up this one, and this is Bezoar. And it was basically that stone that in Harry Potter world, it was in like I think the stomach of a goat, and it's used to, when you do have like, when you've been poisoned or something, you'll put that in the person's mouth and then they're saved. Story aside, I knew based on notes, because it's very gourmand, it's probably not going to be my cup of tea, but I just had to because of the name and the story. So I picked it up, and I think I was right. It's not that it's bad, it's just very, very gourmand. So it's caramel and marzipan and coumarin, which I don't know what that is, and teak wood. And I feel like it's very authentic. It's a very strong caramel marzipan dessert. And then it's got a slight, I don't even know, like a slight woody, but also incensey kind of feel to it. I assume that's the teak wood. I don't know what coumarin is, but it is quite gourmand, and I'm not a huge gourmand person. This is kind of one that's why I want to keep a little bit of it for myself. I love the picture for this one. I love the story behind it, but my cousin is hugely into gourmands, and this is an interesting take on caramel marzipan. It's not a designer take on it at all. It's definitely an indie take, but yeah, she's definitely going to enjoy this. And I can appreciate that it's very authentic to the notes. It's my personal taste. And then this one, I loved the story behind it. I loved the name of it. It kind of made it better for me just because of that. And this is Not Today, Satan. If you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, there's definitely a whole spiel about that on there, but it was just funny. This is the kind of stuff that's on there, which I really do enjoy. And this one had candied grapefruit, cold rice milk, beeswax, tonka, and I think mandarin or tonka and osmanthus. And this one's just the most hard to place for me. I feel like the notes, my nose is just so thrown by this one, and that's what I'm enjoying about indie fragrances, is they challenge me a lot more than a celebrity or designer fragrance would usually. And niche fragrances as well, I'm obviously really loving and I'll continue to explore, but indie fragrances have been the most challenging, which is sometimes fun to get into. So it's hard to place. It's kind of fruity at the start, which I guess it's mandarin or grapefruit. Yeah, it's kind of fruity, but then it also gets kind of deeper and I don't know, like a slightly waxy or incensey again. And then it gets a little sharp. It's just interesting. It's very unique. And it's one that, again, we're just very opposites, my cousin and I. So she really, really loves. So I'm going to give her a good chunk of that one. But definitely take a look at the website and see what takes your fancy. And read the stories and read the notes and go off of that, because I find they're pretty close, at least in my experience, to what they're listing on there. So with the Bazaar, for example, like I knew they listed everything it was going to be. I just wanted to love it more than I knew I was going to love a super, super gourmand. But they're all really, really interesting to kind of explore in that way. And then we get into the fall releases. And this is what surprised me the most, to be quite honest, because fall is my least favorite season, which is already an unpopular opinion because I find everyone loves fall. And then fall time scents, like quintessential fall time scents, are really not up my alley. Like the kind of, I don't know, pumpkin patch, leaves, candle from Bath and Body Works, they just really aren't my jam. And yet I separated them between like ones I'm gonna wear on me 100% and the one that just isn't my jam really, because there was 4, 5, 6, there were 6. And it was so surprising because my favorite one is actually the pumpkin one. So these are what the little 1 mils look like if you want to try out their fragrances in this way. It might be easier because they're quite unique scents, so you might not want to get a full bottle right away. So I assumed straight off the bat pumpkin pie was going to be my least favorite, and it is by far my favorite scent. I don't even know what it is. I don't know if my nose is changing, but there's just something about this pumpkin pie scent that I love. I wish it was a candle. It kind of does smell like a candle, but I really do love it. It's my number 1 of these little 1 mils, 100%. Then the others I love, and I put in this one, Hocus Pocus, and this one, it smells very floral, but like a dark floral, like a October floral, if you will. I like that, definitely like it. It's very interesting. Then there's Blanche, which I was intrigued by the name. And this is one where I contemplated because it's right on the borderline for me. It's quite gourmand to my nose, but it's again, very interesting, very, very indie. So we'll see. I put that in the good category because it was right on the borderline. Sophia, which I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I just love. I absolutely adore Sophia. Sophia's kind of like a close second to pumpkin pie, but this is a floral, so it wasn't super surprising that I liked it, but it really is nice. And then the last one is Black Flame. Yeah, I do really like this one as well. It's hard to place for me, honestly. I think I've smelled too many fragrances today to be able to place, but I do like that one. And the one that I found the most challenging is I Put a Spell on You. And this one, let me remind myself, right, it just got very, very sharp on my skin. The one time I tried it, it was just too much on my particular skin. So that's the only one. The others, I could not believe because I wouldn't have thought fall time scents would be my jam, but my favorite absolutely has to be pumpkin pie. I feel like if you like pumpkin type scents, you will love that. And if you don't, I would still recommend a little 1 mil because that one was really, really nice. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much to Sucreabeille for sharing these fragrances with me and sending them over. I was so happy to dig in and kind of get into some more indie fragrances. So as always, I will link everything below. Don't forget to subscribe and comment, and I'll see you next time. Bye.